Hello guys, today's episode is about having dyslexia and believing it's a learning disability and actually realizing that is a myth. It is not true. I really hope you enjoy today's episode. It's quite informational rich and really breaking down what is a learning disability and what is dyslexia. Please guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. So the big question is this: how can dyslexics like us create a place, a community, a tribe where people at any stage of life can come and solve any challenge, amplify their strengths, and ultimately help them become who they were meant to be, or in other words, conquer their dyslexia? That is the question, and this show is the answer. My name's Theo Goff, and welcome to the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. Hello guys, I hope we're doing alright. Today, I want to have a conversation to you lot and talk to you about the dyslexia is a myth. The dyslexia is a learning disability is a myth. Like having dyslexia and believing it's a learning disability and sort of discussing it's a myth. And now what's really interesting about this is when we look at the facts, when we look at the research, when we look at basically, okay, I'm diagnosed with dyslexia. What is dyslexia? Guess what it comes up with? It comes up with it saying it's a learning disability. But what's really interesting, how sometimes people believe one thing, like people believe the earth was flat, people believed, we were the center of the universe, people believed certain things that people believed with absolute certainty because of this reason, because of this reason, because of this reason, but then later on they got more smarter and they realized that it's not true, that oh my god, this person had this wacky crazy idea, turned out to be right, turned out to be that idea was true. And the same goes for dyslexia. Now what I'm saying is I really truly believe this a lot, and it's not really my belief, it's research, it's studies, and it's basically looking at what dyslexia is and basically look at what dyslexia is and what a learning disability is and then comparing the two. Because basically people used to only think, this is before the days where people actually started to really appreciate dyslexia, really start to understand it. People believe this is this is more like, when you use words, scientists, people trying to study dyslexia, people trying to look at dyslexia, people would believe that it's just, it's impairment in brain, it's slow functioning, people with dyslexia can't do certain things. And it was all focused on the negative, because dyslexia has been around for 130 years, and about 99.9% of all the focus and the research on dyslexia about why does it happen focuses on the negative. About why is this person unable to do these things. It's not like why is this person able to do these things, it's about the negative, and it always focuses on that. And because we focus all the time on our negative, that it can seem really, really negative. Because, for example, nowadays, when you look at dyslexia, when you find dyslexia, there's so much research, so many people talking about the strengths, the gifts, how it can be an advantage, how dyslexia is actually really crucial in the workplace and all these skills that they can bring to the table. But they're finding about these skills now in the past couple of years because they looked at dyslexia and actually seen the strengths of it, about the entrepreneurs who are dyslexic, but the millionaires who are dyslexic, about the strengths, about, hold on, dyslexics are very, very good at, looking at things whole picture. Dyslexics are very, very good at zooming in, very good at zooming in and understanding people, very, very good at creating connections between seemingly unrelated objects and doing all these different things and looking things outside the box and basically all these strengths. And all these things that dyslexics people have. People go, oh my god, that's so cool. But now times are shifting because there's a lot of people that are working really hard to change the legislation that says dyslexia is classed as a learning disability to something else. Because let me read something to you here that I wrote down earlier. Basically, the definition of a learning disability. Now, this is the Department of Health defines a learning disability as a significant reduced ability to understand new or complex information, to learn new skills, impaired intelligence, with a reduced ability to cope independently, impaired social function, which started before adulthood. So basically, it means it's saying, okay, you find it really hard to learn new skills. You can't learn complex skills. It says that you have an impaired social function. They can't be sort of left alone to your own devices. And all these are completely untrue when it comes to dyslexia. You mean you can, because what dyslexia basically means, one of the most fundamental definitions is like, look, if you are bad at reading and writing and good at everything else, okay, we can call you dyslexic, because basically if you're average to high IQ and you find reading and writing hard, you are dyslexic. This is very basic, but you are dyslexic. But if you're bad at reading and writing and everything else is below average, you're not dyslexic, because there's going to be other things going on. Because by the definition of being dyslexic, you should be average to high intelligence rating. So the idea of thinking that you aren't smart because you have dyslexia is completely false. And when we go through the list sort of like inability to learn new skills, dyslexics can learn things at an incredible rate if they are shown how. Because the problem isn't like there's this debate, it's really good, about is dyslexic a learning disability or a teaching disability? There's a lot of arguments saying it's a teaching disability, because if you have the right teaching, the right methods, because basically if you put a dyslexic person through the same methods that we've been teaching for a couple 100 years, and they're looking at this, there's a person calling me. So, and they're looking at this, and it's sort of like, well, you mean this kid can't learn? No, it can't learn because you can't teach them the way that they're designed. Because it's not a learning disability, it is a teaching disability. If you completely change the teaching to what the child needs, the child performing average or above average in so many different categories of teaching when it comes to the standard. And yes, they do find things certain hard, like reading and writing. They probably will read, no matter how much help and support, they probably will find reading and writing harder than the average person, because that's the brain, the way's wired. But does this mean that they need help and support for the rest of their life? No. There's a thing called speech to text. There's a thing that can get things read back to you. There's like voice control. We can talk to something and it says what you mean. So nowadays, with the technology that's at your fingertips, you can cope in this world. And for example, like you need help everywhere. Like one challenge for dyslexics is traveling, getting about from A to B, and because they think they can't read a map or they can't do certain things. Well, guess what? No one needs to read a map nowadays. My sense of direction is so awful, but yet I can travel all around London as long as I know where I'm going, because I have my phone with me. Because I can type in a location that says A, B, C, and D. And guess what? If I don't know, I know the people around me will know. So I ask a question and they can answer it, and then moving forward like that. So the whole notion of that dyslexia is a learning disability is completely false. I would say look at it more, it's more of a teaching disability if anything. But what you can do with that information? Well, for you personally, right now you have to study for this exam that you got in a couple of months, or you're struggling in this work, or you want to learn this new skill. Right now, you shouldn't go out and try and change the whole education system so you can learn the way you want, because that will take lifetimes. You right now should start learning in a different way. Because one of the biggest things is, because my dyslexic summit that's coming up, so exciting about. One of the things I had interviewed all these amazing people. How they learnt best was by going out there and really realizing, hold on, I'm not going to learn the same way as everyone else is going to learn. I'm not going to do this strategy. I'm not going to say what this professor is saying. I'm going to test and see what feels right to me. Feels like, oh my God, I'm doing these things. I'm doing recall. I'm asking myself these questions. I'm talking to my friends. I'm spending behind talking to professor. I'm doing these things. And this is how I'm learning. I'm not learning through looking through a textbook. Okay, do more what feels right and less what feels useless. And once you have more of this mindset, yes, people may get upset that you're not doing it their way. You may have to do it their way to make them happy, so they don't, punish you in certain ways, say you're being lazy or all this. Yes, you may have to jump through certain hurdles, but you have to jump through certain hurdles. But you have to really realize, okay, what works for me, and start doing that most effective way. Because doing all that, guys, this is the process. Because basically, where I've came about all this information is I've been doing a lot of research in the limiting beliefs about dyslexia for this book I'm doing. But a lot of research in it, and so many people believe that dyslexia is a learning disability. Why do they believe that? Because it's on paper in legislation. If the smartest people saying, yes, you have a learning disability, this is confirmed, this isn't opinion, this is fact, when people come across like that to you, think, oh my God, I've got a learning disability. They start thinking, I can't learn that. I've got a learning disability. No, you actually haven't. When you look at learning disability and dyslexia, they are two different things. And when people, especially smart, educated people who spend time with you, who are pointing fingers and putting labels on you, saying you have a learning disability, you do not take that in. Do not take that in and saying, okay, I have a learning disability. This means I cannot do these things. You can do those things. It may not be in the same time frame and it may not be the same strategy as everyone else thinks, but you have to do it. You have to do it. This is why exams don't work, because they're often designed to do it with people who are basically neurotypical, who aren't dyslexics, and think, okay, this is how we learn, but it's not how dyslexics learn. And there can be accommodations for people like with dyslexia, but then that's not to say that's perfect, not to say that it's just as easy for dyslexics as everyone else. And so I really want us to realise that, look, dyslexia is not a learning disability. It's not a disability at all. And I want us to really realise and believe that. And now, I want to talk about, is having a disability really that bad? Is it all that bad? Is having a disability, if someone, for example, there's people out there that has a disability and it's so much worse than we could ever have. I remember growing up and I was this kid at school who who couldn't walk for long without being in a wheelchair, who had to have someone else help him to go to the toilet because basically he couldn't go to the toilet the same way and wires sticking in and out of him. And it was sort of like at school and stuff. And my mum always used to say, and just use him an example, and there's so many other people, that at least you haven't got that. At least you haven't got that. And people have tragic accidents, no limbs, no arms, no legs. They're born with it or developed some sort of muscle condition or whatever, that they break bones. But listen, there are some people out there who haven't got any legs, who haven't got any arms, who have really bad disabilities, things that they physically cannot do. They cannot walk, they cannot do these things. But yet, guess what? Some of them, not all of them, but some of them are living more happier and more successful lives than the average person could ever imagine to live. They're so happy and they're living life to the fullest of their extent. And why? Because they're focusing on what they can do, not on what they can't do. And listen, here's my thing. If people can go through trauma, go through horrible, horrific things, have horrible, horrific things done to them, but yet they come out stronger and they'll be able to live a happier and more fulfilled life than the majority of people. If they are able to do that, going through things that are so much worse than struggling to read and write with so many, if they can do that, what's your excuse? What's your excuse for living below, the average person thinking you've got dyslexia? What's your excuse saying, oh, I've got dyslexia, I can't be happy, I can't be successful? This person ain't got no arms and legs. This person's had this sort of growing up, this person had this condition. But yet they're still fighting, yet they're still loving, yet they're still happy. And there are people like that. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but there are people like who are inspirational, who are motivational, who can speak in front of thousands of people saying, look, I'm happy, I'm successful, what's your excuse? And that's my little message I want to leave here. What's your excuse? If you want to call dyslexia a disability, it's not a learning disability. If you look at the definition of learning disability it's not, so don't hold yourself a label. But if you want to call yourself saying, oh yeah, I have a learning disability, I find these things harder, so do these other people. These other people find it so much more harder than you, but yet they're living so much more better life. So what's your excuse? Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I look forward to chatting with you again soon. Take care. Bye.